Once again, we are back and we are going to talk about this idea of overnight success. And the reason why I am laboring with it for so long, because a lot of times we get caught up in really becoming something overnight. And I keep hearing it over and over and over again. So let's unpack something else that really bothers us in becoming an overnight success.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work, an award-winning podcast where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here's your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Hey, everybody. Listen. So, as I stated, we're still unpacking this idea of becoming an overnight success. But we talk about, persevering. We've talked about, embracing the journey. We've talked about, hey, how do you deal with the years of work that you've put in it, and even acknowledging what you've accomplished in stuff that you feel as though is not even work. Now, how do you deal with, or how do you stay motivated when progress appears to be slow? Now, I'm going to use this opportunity to tell a real life situation. For those of you who knows, my wife and I have been working through Chisholm Group LLC since 2012. And one of the reasons why things did not work in the beginning was because she and I had conversations where it appeared to be that she was working a little slower than I really wanted her to. Now, this was back in 2014 or 15. So we're talking about 10 years ago, right? And in that, she could have decided that she did not want to help, aid, or assist me any longer. Maurice, but what was she trying to help you with? She was trying to help me with some marketing things. I was told before I even started the business, run into an old friend who was doing something very similar. I was into repairing computers. I was, if you could see my fingers, I was this close to becoming A+ certified. I had gone to school, so I understand what it's like for a 486 processor and, your hard drive being 2 megabytes. Like, I get all of that, right? Changing out cards and expansion cards and hard drives and SATA disk and this and that, whatever. So do I know that? Yes, I do. And so, but I wanted to venture into the other part of my brain where I was a little bit more artistic. So I wanted to do some more flyers, logos, website design, things like that. And so I had run into an old friend and he had mentioned to me, Maurice, you need to learn Photoshop. And I did just that. I did. I learned Photoshop and I was able to help out some people, some clients, things like that over the years. So there was a project I was working on. My wife was like, hey, is there anything I can help you with? And I said, yeah, sure. Why don't you take the opportunity to learn Photoshop as well? Well, she did not. And in that, I was a little frustrated. So I said to her, I did not want to move forward. So then what I ended up doing was turning her off a little bit. I did. And 10 years later, let's say 8.5 to 9, when she asked me again what I need help with, I was able to articulate it in a manner that kept her engaged, kept her wanting to do it. It doesn't mean that she went and learned Photoshop. Like, that's not the story right here, right? What it is that it took me 10 years to learn how to speak to my wife, which means did I know how to learn? I mean, did I know how to speak to my clients and or customers and or be able to close new business? So what I'm getting at is that the moments where it feels like things are not turning out the right way, how do you stay motivated in the process when things seem slow, especially when you know that you need to speak to people? I'm going to say, again, in my case, where you have to speak to people, and in order to speak to people and to close deals, you have to learn how to really effectively communicate to these individuals. So how are you able to win people over if you don't know how to do it from the beginning? And that's something that I had to learn. So how did I stay motivated in that process and not want to, again, kick rocks? What happened is that as I started to grow in the podcasting space, and let's rewind for a moment, I realized before that, because she and I had a discussion about it, of where I had to learn how to speak to her. If I, especially in a space where I was frustrated, I knew I'd speak to her otherwise, but in frustration or whatever it might have been, yeah, I was a little, I had some moments, right? But when it had come to the times to speak to clients and or anyone else in a business perspective, I had to learn how to deal with that because I did not have a lot of practice based off of my corporate America experience, because time was money, and it's like, I need you to answer me right now, right this moment, and keep it moving. But understanding that there's a process in learning how to effectively communicate, it felt slow. I felt like things were becoming slow and things weren't working. And so now I'm going to jump ahead just a slight little bit to when I started interviewing people on the podcast. I started doing the podcast and doing moments like this where I'm speaking to you, right? But then I started interviewing individuals. And then as I'm interviewing individuals, I started to realize, like, after the first couple episodes that were not my friends, I was not confident enough. I was not aware enough of how to maneuver the process. So again, here's the thought of not effectively communicating to these individuals and knowing that and showing that I know what I'm speaking about, knowing that I know what I'm talking about, knowing that the content that we're trying to present, I had a grasp of, and not just wanting to read from their bio and or reading from a list of questions they already had prepared that they wanted me to ask. So there was a process that I had to go through, and that process felt slow. But how did I continue to stay motivated? I continued to stay motivated through speaking consistently. I had an interview at least one a day, 5 days a week. And as I started to see my communication skills, my interpersonal skills, and learning more about whether or not I'm an introvert or extrovert, and wanting to learn a little bit more about how I maneuver through certain situations and opportunities, I started to become more proficient in that space of communication and being able to explain whether or not I knew the content well enough or not. So I'm at a point now where I can most definitely take an interview because I'm so confident in myself in communication right now that I can interview anybody and we have a ball doing it because I am comfortable and I allow myself to grow in this space. So how do I stay motivated? Watch my little wins. Watch how people's faces change as we're doing the interview. Watch how they respond as I am able to connect with them on another level. That is something that we all need to pay attention to, is that staying motivated through the process, because it showed, unfortunately, again, I start off by speaking about my wife and her not knowing something. And then, now does she know any better? No. Is she helping? Yes, she is. Because now I've realized that I needed to speak to her differently. Once we, and then understanding from that point to now, our relationship, even that relationship, she and I as husband and wife, let alone business partners, how it has totally skyrocketed to another plateau that I never imagined for me to achieve. So I encourage each and every one of you to pay attention to these little things, these little situations. Look at how people are responding to you, how they're reacting to you, how they are taking in your information and or not. And then watch the progress from the beginning to where you are at some point in time. Take notes, journal, whatever it might be, and just see some incremental change as you are moving forward. So I encourage each and every one of you to stay motivated. And how do you stay motivated? Pay attention to all the small moments. But first, you got to recognize that there's a challenge. This is how your success will appear to be overnight. Thank you very much for listening today.
Thanks for listening. Follow Maurice Chisholm on social media to stay connected and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work. Or will it?